What if I told you that the CIA classified a book called The Adam and Eve Story, a book about end times and cataclysm and pole reversals? Wouldn't make you wonder why the CIA had to keep this book under wraps? In fact, what if I further told you that 50 to 60 years ago is when they classified this book, and in 2013 they finally decided to release it to the public? However, what they released to the public was a sanitized version. In other words, they removed parts of the story. Would that make your alarm bells go up? Would that make your curiosity peak? Wouldn't that make your conspiracy side want to just bust out of there? It sure the hell made mine want to come out of hiding, if you will. I've not been in hiding. I've been a conspiracy theorist for quite some time, as you guys know. But anyway, my interest is piqued. Now, I've never heard of this book. Maybe you guys have, but or maybe I'm alone in this, but I've never even heard of this. And I was reading up some stuff today and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's all legit. They really did classify this book. What's it about? Who is the author? Well, I've got all kinds of information to share with you guys today, and my thoughts on why I believe the CIA kept it under wraps so long and why some information is still missing from this book. But before I dive in, I got to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Noble Gold Investments. Look, while we're all distracted with stuff that is going on, the insiders are preparing. I'm talking about banks and billionaires and even foreign governments, and they're preparing by hoarding gold and silver. You see, they know the dollar is being devalued and they know that the crash is coming. That is why I want to encourage you guys to give Noble Gold Investments a call today, because they can help you invest the same way that they are investing. They can help you get your hands on investment grade gold and silver today, and they can ship that directly to your door as well. So give them a call at 1-877-646-5347 and let them know you heard it on Lisa Haven's channel, because right now they are giving away this 10-ounce silver American flag bar and 1 silver American Eagle proof coin for any new qualified account, IRA, or cash purchases. And if you want to check it out as well, you can go to lisahavengold.com, fill out that information that you see there, and click email me my wealth kit, and they will send you a free wealth kit. Check it out today. By the way, if you want more information, click that more button if you're on your cell phone, or click the link in the description box below. And by the way, there's always a risk to investing. There's never a guarantee. But with that, what of this mysterious book? Well, I got to give a shout out to where I found it. I'm going to start with this article because they actually had a real good article on it. The Mirror had an article on it and a couple news agencies, but take a look at this. It's the Wise Wolf. So, top secret apocalypse inside the mysterious CIA cover-up of a doomsday prophecy. And he just wrote this September 29th, 2025, but he goes on to say, the CIA doesn't want you to read this. In 1963, a man named Chan Thomas published a thin book with an extraordinary claim. The world ends every 7,000 years, and we're overdue for the next one. The book was called The Adam and Eve Story, and it proposed that catastrophic pole shifts had repeatedly wiped out human civilization, leaving only scattered survivors to rebuild from scratch. It was the kind of thing you'd expect to find in the dusty corner of a used bookstore, filed next to an ancient astronaut theories and Atlantis speculation. Except the problem with this story is it was classified by the CIA. Not just any classification either. The book remained buried in the agency's archives for half a century before being partially declassified in 2013. And here's where it gets strange. They didn't release the whole thing. Large sections remain redacted to this day. Why would America's premier intelligence agencies take such a keen interest in what appears to be nothing more than a catastrophic pseudoscience mixed with biblical interpretation? It goes on about the author, right? Because the next question is, all right, we kind of get the idea of what this is about, and I'm gonna get into a little bit of more on that in a minute. But what about the author of the book? And here's what it says about the author. Chan Thomas wasn't some street corner prophet. According to available records, he was an engineer, a self-described polymath who claimed expertise in what he called cataclysmic geology. A 1960s newspaper article describes him presenting his theories to audiences, speaking with the confidence of a man who believed he'd cracked open secrets that mainstream science refused to acknowledge. He claimed that prehistoric humans had built space vehicles. He suggested those vehicles might account for modern UFO sightings, though he was careful to note he wasn't a flying saucer fan. It goes on. By 1961, Thomas had also founded his own company, Chan Incorporated, dedicated to the discovery and analysis of nature's processes. 2 years later, he published The Adam and Eve Story. He would go on to write other books, including one about ESP that proposed extrasensory perception and could be explained through the magnetic field theory. He died in 1998, largely forgotten except by a small circle of catastrophic enthusiasts. Then 15 years later, the CIA's partial declassification of his book turned him into a legend. So after he died, 15 years later, the CIA suddenly decides to unclassify it. And here's the enigma. Here's what we know for certain. The Adam and Eve Story was published in 1963 by Emerson House in Los Angeles. At some point afterwards, the CIA classified it. The agency has never explained why. When pressed through the Freedom of Information Act request, they released a sanitized version in 2013 with significant portions removed. Okay, so that gives you kind of the overall enchilada, if you will, of the whole report. And here's the deal. I went straight to the CIA.gov to find the files. I'm like, well, let's see if this is legit and more information on this, because a lot of people publish stuff that's not true. Well, sure as stuff out there is, I'm not going to say the word. It was there on the CIA website. And this is on CIA.gov. I will have a link on Restricted Republic if you guys want to check it out. But you can see the Adam and Eve Story by Chan Thomas. Definitely legit, definitely there. And you can see the release date of 2013, 6/24/2013. And you read it right here, declassified in part. And I'm going to circle this part, but here it is right here. Declassified in part, sanitized copy approved for 2013. So you can see right here, it's called a sanitized copy. In other words, it's not the full report. Interesting. So it's got some of the book in here and parts of it are obviously left out. That's why they have the stamp of sanitized copy. But anyway, that's the book. Now, I also went on Amazon because I am intrigued by Amazon. And Amazon claims to have the story as well. You could see the Adam and Eve Story. There's a couple of them on here that claim to be the legit thing, right? Quite a few of them. The truth of the matter is what people are claiming is it's either a version of this with added stuff, but there's no proof or no evidence where they could have gotten it from, or there are differences between the two. Like what the CIA released and what's out on the internet, there's lots of differences between these books. So no one's been able really to verify whether or not these are the legit copies, at least though that is what we're hearing. So a lot of those have editing difference from what was released by the CIA. Either way, it's intriguing nonetheless. But what is kind of the concept of the entire book? And it's basically what we shared so far. And I got kind of the Cliff Notes version off the document through ChatGTP. But basically, the Earth goes through a cataclysmic pole shift every 65 to 7,000 years. And he doesn't put a straight number on that year. It's just kind of a guesstimate. But these pole shifts, he claims, have floods, earthquakes, winds, volcanic eruptions, and wipe out civilization for the most part. There's some very small remaining survivors. And then humanity is set to repeat, rise, fall, and restart after every cataclysm. And that's what he accounts for the biblical flood. If you believe in a young earth, then that would make the earth, I don't know, there's speculation 6,000, 7,000 to 10,000 year old. So obviously we're well overdue for a cataclysm. So based off that, he's a little off on his numbers, but it gets into his version of the shifts. And if you go down to the historical links right here in this section, he argues that past events like Noah's flood, Atlantis, and all of these are kind of myths about what has happened in the past. And then you go on how the CIA classified part of the book, which later declassified. And that, of course, sparks speculation into the book. But either way, it really details cataclysm every seven-ish plus or minus 1,000 years. Now, if you take the Bible, for example, and you truly believe that we are living in the end time Bible prophecy, well, then technically we're right around that time frame if Jesus were to return and the rapture were to happen and Bible prophecy were to play out. We're right on the brink of all of that, if we are at those end times. And I believe we're nearing that. Obviously, we've got 10 nations that need to form. We've got all these things we're still waiting to see. We need that false peace agreement in the Middle East. But, you know, it's interesting, to say the least. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt, right? Because the guy also was into ESP and all of that as well. So I'm not going to take everything he says verbatim because obviously we're still here past a little bit of that point. But here's another theory, and I lean more on this one, right? Thomas worked, or is said to have worked, in aerospace and defense contracting. He worked with the U.S. Air Force. Many believe that he was in some kind of aerospace or defense contracting, right? And perhaps in the book, he may have included technical details about some of the time that he spent in the military regarding all of that. So maybe this is why it was classified, because maybe he referenced things that he wasn't supposed to reference in that book that may have went along with some of the classified maybe technology or stuff that he was working on for his time in the military. Could be. But then the question therein lies, why declassify the entire book? Why not just remove those sections from the get-go and move on with it? Good question. Because what happened instead, obviously it was classified 50, 60 some odd years, I'm guesstimating, and then released with redactions or with their sanitized copy, right? But either way, it's interesting. Maybe they had a reason for that we don't know. Or the other thing is, in the more darker side, what if there was some truth to what he was saying, you know, geological surveys, or maybe he referenced satellite monitoring, or maybe he had some more detailed facts that they didn't want to leak out. Maybe there was a slice of truth or some kind of something that they didn't want the public to know. But here's the deal. Regarding pole shifts happen. They're not fake news. They're legit. Everybody likes to call them a conspiracy theory, but they are not. They're actually legit and they do happen. The question is, how do they happen? And that is where people differ. But I'm going to give you NASA's version because this is it. Earth's magnetosphere, protecting our planet from harmful space energy. And here's what NASA says about a pole shift. During a pole reversal, the magnetic field weakens, but it doesn't completely disappear. The magnetosphere, together with Earth's atmosphere, still continue to protect our planet from cosmic rays and charged solar particles, though there may be a small amount of particulate radiation that makes it down to Earth's surface. The magnetic field becomes jumbled, and multiple magnetic poles can emerge at unexpected latitude. No one knows exactly when the next pole reversal may occur, but scientists know they don't happen overnight. Instead, they take place over hundreds of thousands of years, and they have no reason to believe a flip is imminent, right? So there you have it. And they're claiming that, you know, there are small things that happen, but nothing to the effect of where there's a physical switch and we all suddenly die, which is the alternative to that. But either way, what I do know, I don't believe everything that comes out of NASA. However, I think there's obviously, you know, if this takes hundreds to thousands of years, right? We've got some time, but I'm just going to put this there. I believe in the way that the Bible says things are going to go down, and that's kind of where I sit on it. Take that Christian point of view on that, and that's just that simple. So with all of that, I find it interesting. I can't wait to hear your thoughts and concerns. But again, I'm not too worried about the pole reversal and all of that as well. And I'm going to take this guy's book with a grain of salt. I think the reason they may have classified it is he may have had some information about his time in the military that they didn't want in there. But again, everybody differs. I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and concerns on the whole thing as well. Anyhow, I love you all. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.